everybody. My name is Tashana Pritchett from the Able Center, a beautiful lady exploration center. And I'm excited to be here today with another guest. I'm so very, very excited. We are a nonprofit resource and support center for the everyday working woman. And we support women who are on a journey of becoming better mothers, daughters, sisters, wives, neighbors, and friends. You've already seen or heard some of our other podcasts. This one is just like the rest, or maybe even better. I'm so excited about it. And we're just going to get started. My next guest, I'm going to allow her to introduce herself, and then we're going to jump right in.
Shauna, thank you so much for this opportunity. I'm so excited to be here with you as well. I am Sharmaine Taylor, the winemaker and winery owner of Noir Sunshine Winery here in Maryland. I am a Virginia native, and I'm excited to be on your podcast because it is very profound to juggle all the roles that a woman, uh, all the hats that a woman has to wear. And so I'm excited to be here with you tonight.
So good. Thank you so much, Charmaine. Is it okay if I call you Charmaine?
Yes, absolutely.
Awesome. Awesome.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'm excited about this winery. I want to hear so much more about that, but I want to jump already into because you said juggle, and juggle is like, my God, when it comes to all of the hats that we wear, and we haven't even gotten into all of it yet, but all of the hats that we wear, how do you balance? How do you balance? Like, what's the main thing that helps you to balance life?
I think the most important thing is having a sense of self,
Oh, that's good.
believing in God, having someone else direct your life. Those are my founding principles. It is very hard, though, to always make yourself a priority. And I think that's true for any woman, any career woman, and career could be outside or inside of the home. So those tend to be my guiding principles. That's what I try to keep in front of me um, on this journey.
So the sense of self, I'm thinking when you first said that, I was thinking self-awareness. Is that really, kind of what you're saying in that? Just being aware of what you have, or just not forgetting yourself in it all.
I think self-awareness plays a big part, but also I think that women have to understand and be able to give themselves permission. And a lot of people say, well,
Ooh.
permission, what? Permission to just be, permission to be still,
Mm.
permission to be on this interview tonight. Those are very important concepts. I believe that social media has created a realm where everyone is on to the next thing, and we never fully get to live in where we are now, all the blessings, all of the gratitude. And so self awareness plays a big part in that, and always making sure that you're aware, which is very hard because sometimes you have to tune out all this noise around us.
Woo, that was good. Okay, so um tell me a little bit about this winery.
Uh, so, this winery is a passion project. By trade, I'm a scientist. I've been a scientist for the last 23 years.
Okay.
And so chemistry and how to put things together have always been of great interest to me. But the winery played into that during COVID, right? If we can talk about that time.
Yes.
During COVID, I think all women felt displaced. Even though we
Yes.
were sheltered in, we were displaced. None of us have ever experienced a pandemic of that magnitude, any pandemic to be frank.
Mhm.
And as I looked around, so many of my friends, my neighbors, and other women were struggling to find self awareness. We're going back to that again,
That's good.
because here are the workplaces are shut down, and instantly you go from being not only a professional, but a nurse, a chef, a cook, right? The babysitter, because the kids are home and everyone's like, and all trying to keep ourselves sane. I got together 8 women, 8 friends of mine. I contacted them up and I said, you know what? I'm going to start a wine group. Would you join? And some of them is like, well, what is that? I was like, I'm not really sure what it is right now, but I want you to join the wine group. It wasn't a hard sell because prior to the pandemic, I became a sommelier. I've been a sommelier for 8 years. I trained in France in the Loire Valley with the Clement family, who was like a big producer of Sauvignon Blanc. They've been making wine for the past 85 years. I did an apprenticeship there with them. So when I came back, that's when the pandemic hit. So I'm sitting here and self-aware. I'm like, what are we going to do now? And so that segued into the conversation with the 8 women. And that's how we started the Baltimore Wine Fairy Society. And so, AKA, I'm also known as the Baltimore Wine Fairy because I started this group for women of color where during the pandemic that we would spread joy and bring a little cheer to someone else. The gift baskets would arrive on your doorstep because remember, we couldn't have any contact. The gift
Right.
baskets would arrive on your doorstep, and the rule was within 48 hours, you had to turn around and dust because we're fairies. Fairies are magical, fairy dust. We had to dust another woman, and it just kept growing and growing and growing. And at one time during the pandemic, we had over 135 members of our wine group.
Oh,
Um,
well,
and it was sanity. It was sanity. And someone said, oh, that's a bunch of wine. It wasn't only wine. And that was the premise about this. I'm not on a wine journey. I can sell anybody a bottle of wine. We make great wine. I'm on a soul journey. And so that's how we evolve.
that's so good. So good. Okay. So this is a soul journey.
Mhm.
I love it. I remember when we first talked, and you were telling me about the winery and sommelier and all of that, and I knew nothing about it. I don't drink wine. I don't know anything about the history and all of that stuff. So for those who are just like me, can you explain to me sommelier and what that process is of getting into that?
Sure. So a sommelier or sommelier, if you're in
Okay.
France, American version in France pronunciation. A sommelier is a wine expert. So I am a trained wine expert. I have a master's of wine
Oh
education,
wow.
which entitles me to be able to teach wine education classes. And that's kind of what folded up into our wine club now. And that was another reason of bringing the women together during the pandemic. I didn't just want them to drink wine. I wanted them to make educated and informed decisions about wine because African
So
Americans
good.
spend 1.2, might be a little higher, but $1.2 billion in the wine industry, and we have less than 1% representation
Wow.
in a $1 billion industry. And
Wow.
as I would go to trade shows, because I've been in the wine business since 2002. So as I would go to trade, as I would go to other wine tastings and pairings, I would look around and realize I was the only Black person in the room, male or female. Wine is still a heavily dominated white male industry. Right now, African American winemakers are 0.027% in the United States, right? We're not even 1% African American ones at that. So it was a journey. And I kind of equate that to a PhD in wine. So that's what a psalm
Mm.
has. A psalm is equivalent to a PhD.
Wow. Okay. That is so good. I've learned so much. And
Oh,
I'm just writing all types of notes. This is so good, like I'm in school.
I'm excited. I'm excited. And again, that's why I did the journey.
I love it, and I really, it really resonates with me how you are able to take your passion, like you're a scientist, your passion for wine and loving on women and really wanting people to not be alone and helping them to get out of themselves, get out of their feelings, and get on the soul journey. You pulled women together and you started this.
Well, that's
Um
amazing.
and it started with just 8 women, and it grew and it grew and it grew, and now you're called Baltimore Wine Fairy. Like this thing has followed you for years, since 2002,
It has.
and it's just building. So you're a builder. You have really built something that's amazing. Is this something that you feel that would be able to carry on into other places? Do you know other people that are doing it, or do you have goals to expand this?
So, I don't know if anybody else is doing this. I'm sure there are wine clubs, but there are no wine clubs that are specifically dedicated to women of color, the
Okay.
education of women of color. And our wine club and our winery has another component that I am aware that no other wineries are doing. We also have a community service portion of our winery and wine club. So to become a member of our wine club, there's a process. But to stay a member, we do 6 to 8 community service projects a year. Um, it's all fun to drink wine, but I understood early on the power of women, the power of community, the power of Black women connecting and coming together. And so those community service projects are different. Like we do back to school backpack drives. We feed the veterans for Thanksgiving. For the last past 15 years, we've donated 200 plus each year gift bags to nursing home residents in Baltimore City. In May, we do a Pack the Purse where we donate toiletries and brand new purses to women in the shelter. So it just goes on because I believe too much is given, much is required.
Amen. 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 That is so good. I love that. I love the whole community service portion of it.
And
That
so
is so good.
I
That
think
is
the
so.
goal to expand, we were talking about that. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you
Yes,
off.
no problem.
The goal to expand right now, our wine club members are women who are in Maryland, DC, Virginia, North Carolina, Georgia, Chicago, Delaware, Philadelphia, and New York. So now we have 85 wine club members. And I think that's awesome that we
Wow.
have all these women that believe in our dream. And the dream is noir, right? So, and noir is French for black.
Okay. Yes.
Um,
Yes. I love it. I love it. 85 wine club members, and y'all are doing community service. You're getting out there and doing a
Absolutely.
lot for your community. I love it. I love it. Um, you had said something that was real good earlier, and we just kept talking, but I didn't forget it. You had said something about social media, and let's talk about. I do want to talk about too how you promote your winery, but let's talk about social media a little bit. Like, how does social media play into our lives as women, and what do you think is the positive and the negative, and what's happening with social media in this season?
That's a big one,
It
Tashana.
is.
I,
It is. It's
it is.
huge.
Wow. I think social media plays a different part based on your age range or where you fall. If
Yes.
you're a boomer, if you're Gen X, if you're Gen Y, Gen Z, millennials. I believe social media can be very positive because as a small business owner, we don't have big budgets for marketing campaigns,
That's
right?
right.
We don't have budgets for commercials. So social media in that aspect is positive, right? Because we can
Mhm.
get our products out, right, to
Yes.
everyone. Someone I was at a wine festival recently and someone came up and, they said, well, we know this is a Black wine club, winery and et cetera. Is this, can I join? And it was a white woman. And I was like, do you have a uterus? And she said, yes. I said, then you can join. It, this is a wine club for all women, but it started with Black women. And that's because Black women have to have something that is ourselves, that we
Mhm.
can say is ours. And culturally, um, we don't have that. We've never been allowed to have that space. So I'm creating that space, not only for Black women, but any woman that wants rest. Because right now we're in a tumultuous
Yes,
time. We're talking a day after the inauguration of the 47th president and everything that comes with. So now more than ever, all women, Black, brown, purple, pink, all women need a safe place to land because
that's
there's
right.
a lot of uncertainty right now, right? You're having reproductive rights, right? Being slashed, right? The LGBTQ community, whether people support it or not, I don't believe anyone should be threatened based on their beliefs. No one is God. God is the only judge, in my opinion.
Yes.
So, in that aspect, I feel like that it can be a little negative, social media, right?
Yeah.
Because we're bombarded right now by all of the information. Meta, Facebook has decided to take away fact checking, right? And now we're in an AI arena where AI could basically mimic me sitting here right now.
That's right.
Right?
Hmm.
So with all of those things, I believe that brings the negativity to social media. And also, I think when people see your journey or share your journey or your passion on social media, that people think that it was an easy road to get to where you are. We live in a microwave society, and unfortunately, that's not how my journey went, right? And I am very clear on the fact I don't want your blessing. I want whatever blessings came with mine because I know along with blessings comes trials and journeys, right? And that's
Hmm.
where I have been. So, social media, positive in terms of business, positive in terms of maybe checking in now and again on someone, but very negative because people can be very jealous. People can be very envious, right? Everyone wants to be envious of the where on the other side of glory, but nobody wants to talk about how you got to glory.
Come on.
So,
That's right. That's right. That is so real. There's a lot of comparison. And comparison, as we've known it to be, is a thief of joy. Because when you're watching someone else and you're thinking that, oh my God, they have all of this, and I'm not there yet. But what they got ain't got nothing to do with you.
right.
you know so trying to get that through the minds of people can be difficult
I think
because they
it
see it every day, and
goes
they
back
see
to
that sometimes they're still sitting in the same spot. And as much as you can say, well, move, don't keep sitting in the same spot, but although you're moving, still don't look at the other person in comparison to you. Celebrate them, but you keep moving forward. So that's real good. That's real good.
it
Um,
goes back to what we talked about earlier, self-awareness,
Amen.
aware of
Amen. Hmm. Yeah. We shouldn't be so focused on what everybody else is doing unless we're, looking for a way to help them.
I think it can be good though, right, to focus on what someone else is doing because no one else knows. I get a lot of people come to me and ask me to sign their bottles of wine. They bring their daughters
Mhm.
to meet me because number one, there aren't many Black female scientists. That's number one. But number two, there aren't many Black female winemakers, right?
Wow. Okay. Okay.
It's kind of
That's
like
good.
a circle moment, right?
Yeah.
And so again, if someone is watching that, then be inspired to follow your dreams and your passion, no matter what it looks like to anybody else. So if there's anything that anyone can glean from watching my social media or watching my journey is be inspired, go after your own dreams. It's never too late to start again.
That's good. That's good. That's good. It's never too late to start again. Absolutely. Absolutely. That is so good because one of our podcast titles has been Faith Over 40. So I ain't gonna ask you how old you are. But one of the things that I know that I love to ask people, like, on this journey, as we're becoming better and as we're helping others, we're lifting up others along the way. That's why I tell people all the time, like, my goal is to, get somewhere and to lift others along the way. So as I'm on this journey with God and I'm, trying to follow him and I'm making sure that I'm in alignment with him, I want to bring, like, everywhere I go, it's not everywhere I stop, but everywhere I go, like on the way, I'm grabbing somebody and pulling them along. Whether they stay with me or not, I'm grabbing them and pulling them along. So this has been, for me, 50 years. So I'm 50 years old. And on my journey, I've met a lot of people, and some have stayed, some have gone, some are still here, some, we were there, with each other for a short amount of time, some longer periods of time, things like that. But the joy in it all is knowing that I've stuck with my assignment. I'm continuing to stick with my assignment, and I'm grabbing others and pulling them along. I'm not looking to gain anything from anyone that I'm pulling along. You know, the goal is to just pull somebody up. What they do with it after I pull them up is on them.
That's
How do you feel on your journey as you are pulling up these women, and because I say all the time, like, I ain't here to waste my time. I remember my grandma used to say, I'm not wasting my breath. So, so
right.
as we are, pulling up other people along our journey, and we know that, we're moving along, and we at some point we're gonna retire from this thing, and we're not gonna, keep moving in the same way. We may still have our hands in certain things, but we're not gonna keep moving in the same way. How do you feel about the people that you have around you, and what are your plans for your growth, and where your where your organization is going? Like, I know I said a whole lot, but take what you will,
Okay. I
and
wrote down
help
I
us.
I wrote down a point that I wanna come back to,
Okay.
and I
Okay.
if you wanna jot it down too, but, when you said who stays with you or not on your journey, so I
Yeah.
want to come back to that. Plans for growth, right?
Amen.
So right now, the wine club, um, I'd love to have it expand across the United States. Um, I've been praying that God would enlarge our territory. And that's happening, right? This interview is one. I'll also in March, I'll be in Seattle. I was invited to come talk about my wine journey, a Black winemaker's dinner. So we'll be featured over in Seattle.
Yay. I love it.
And the women that are coming along, my founders, right? Because these group of women, right? And then I said to them after I started this wine club, I was like, we're gonna have a winery. And they were like, what? That was 2020. And I said, the, we're not gonna stop it. I'm just gonna teach you about wine. Because God says that we're gonna be owners and we're going to start a winery. And you know what? They all said, let's do it. Right. And so those founding women are the board. Right. So the Wine Fairy Society are board members. So I don't do it all. There's a president, there's a vice president, secretary, treasurer, members at large. Those are the founding members. Those 8 women, those are the founding members. And so they kind of guide or govern the presence of the wine club, right? The winery, I'm excited about it, right? Um, so right now we're here in Maryland.
Mhm.
We will be coming to Virginia. We'll be opening up our second winery in Virginia, which
Yay! Congratulations! Awesome.
I am super excited. Like I shared in the beginning, I am a Virginia native. I was born and raised in Virginia. And coming back feels like home. It feels like the right decision.
Mhm.
Because I have a lot of family and friends and classmates.
Yeah.
Are like, hey, I see what you're doing there. How can I be a part of it? And that's one thing that I've always encouraged people to do. You don't have to live in Maryland to be a part of this wine club. We do virtual enrichment activities, right? In January, we're in January, but we do a retreat, right? Because we want to feel the pulse of women. Where are you? Um, we're starting this year having talks with a Black female OBGYN, right? To talk about what should we be doing with all of this anxiety about what's going on in the world, right? She'll also come in and talk to us about changing 40, 50, 60, premenopause, menopause, and all of that good stuff that comes with it, right? Reproductive alternatives for young women who are in college, right? But who do want to focus on their career and start a family later. So it's much more about wine. Wine is what brings people in the room, but the catalyst to get people talking around the table is what
That's
I'm really
good.
focused on. You can drink but not be drunk. That's what was said. And we don't focus too much on drinking. It's more relationship. It's
Yes.
more how can I help you? So that's where ultimately it would be in the winery in Virginia that we're setting up. Will be run by people with disabilities because that's very important for me. That's one of the missions of Noir. 10% of each bottle of our Noir opulence is donated to a nonprofit called Differently Abled, and that's to help kids with traumatic brain injuries to help their parents cover the cost of equipment, recreational activity, and things of that sort. Because just because someone is differently able doesn't mean they don't have value.
Amen.
So that's kind of
Amen.
where we're branching off with this, and I'm so excited. This is exciting.
This is so good. What's the name of the nonprofit again?
Differently able.
Differently Able. I love
Differently
it.
able.
I love it. That is so good. Um, you had something else that you wanted to cover. Did you cover everything you had written down?
Nope, I wanted to cover the stay with you part or not. And so I
Okay.
guess now I want to ask you, like, how do you handle that? Because I've realized that the more, and I'm not going to equate this to success, but the more I align myself and stay on God's purpose and journey for my life, I realize that people are beginning to fall by the wayside. And because I love people, it's very unsettling for me. So, what advice do you have for me? And I hear from business women, women like yourself, women, get used to it. It's gonna get worse. And I'm like, oh, it feels just so uncomfortable. So how do I deal with that?
Unfortunately, it's going to be uncomfortable because you have a heart. Um, and that's the thing about it. Like it took me a long time to get used to it. Because I really think um a lot of it really has to do with you personally and how you accept it. For myself, I had to go through this. I went through a whole healing journey over the last few years, and I wrote a book. My book will be released at the end of the month. And a lot of what we're about to talk about right now is in that book. So it's how to show up when the world is trying to knock you down. So look for it. It's coming out. And a lot of these same things is in there because as a businesswoman, and I'm not talking and I'm not patting myself on the back or anything because I wouldn't be anywhere without God. But as being a very successful businesswoman, successful in many, many ways, is just like you, like, you know, successful at hair, successful in coaching, consulting with my nonprofit,
Yeah.
building teams, as well as going into other, people's organization is helping them because I'm an administrator by nature. So I help other organizations with building and setting up and startup. So, and a lot of these things I don't even advertise. That's how I know it's a God thing. So people ask me a question and I end up in their business helping them.
Oh,
So I know it's a God thing.
awesome.
So I praise him for that. But it has always been difficult because I've been, years of helping people. And I remember one time asking myself, why is it always me helping people, but I don't get anything in return? So
Mm,
it hurts
it
because you look
does.
around and it's like, everybody's getting their flowers and they're getting celebrated and their name is always showing up somewhere. And while I'm not here for that, it does sometimes feel good to be acknowledged. So I found myself always watching other people and clapping for other people and celebrating other people. And some of these same people that I'm celebrating, I help them get to where they are. And then it's like, they got to a certain level and then they forgot about me. It wasn't until I grew in God that I realized, like, if they did what they did to Jesus, why won't they do what they do to me? So who am I to think that, it'll happen to everybody else, but it won't happen to me? So I had to really change my thinking and my mindset and be reminded that I'm not here for celebration. I'm not here, for anybody to acknowledge me. I'm here to help other people grow. I'm here to help, souls get saved. Just like you said, that your group is on a soul journey. Your goal is to help them on their soul journey. But we have to be reminded as to why we are doing this. We're not doing this for, self gratification. Now, God is going to bless us because we're his daughters. He's not blessing us because we're doing the work. Did this work or not, he's still going to love us. He's still going to come chasing after us. He's still going to give us his joy and his peace and his love. He's still going to do all of those things, whether we do the work or not. We have to be decided whether if we're going to be celebrated on earth by people, are we going to not do the work because of that? Or are we going to say, no, God still needs us as his hands and feet? There's still work that has to be done. He needs us as his hand and feet in the earth to be able to get this work done. It's not for us to be celebrated, but it's for God to be made known. And so, and throughout everything that we're doing, I had to be reminded that, every time I'm spreading, the word of God, or I'm helping somebody in their business, or, I'm helping someone to, whether it's personal development or professional development, or, helping somebody put a schedule together or whatever it is. And I'm helping with even doing hair, or, showing somebody how to pin curl, like basic things. Those are things that's really adding time and value into somebody else's life, no matter how big or small. I feel good about helping somebody, teaching them how to pin curl. That's
Absolutely.
adding value to their lives. I don't need to be celebrated for that. My mind had to change. So while it still hurts to look around and see that I don't have these same people around me, but I know deep within I did what I was supposed to do. It's all about a mind shift change. And then at the right time, the right people are going to come along. Doesn't mean that as more people come, doesn't mean they're going to stay forever. We got to identify relationships. I read a good book years ago, and every now and then I open it back up in my Audible, and just to be reminded of certain things, because I love people. I love people real bad. And I have to always be able to identify relationships. This book helped me. It's by Darius Daniels, Relational Intelligence by Darius Daniels. And this book helped me to identify relationships and being able to understand, like, what you should be looking for out of each relationship. And remembering not to, like, somebody you're supposed to be feeding, you can't expect them to feed you. So sometimes you may feed somebody and then they going on.
That's right. I love
Sometimes people are coming to feed you and they standing around looking for you to feed them. And it's like, no, you're done. You were supposed to feed me. You did your job. Now. So we have to be able to identify relationships. Some people come for a reason, for a season, for a lifetime. And when that season is up and when that reason is gone, we got to be able to let them go and not try to hold on to what's already done. It's already done. We have to be okay with letting that go. And it's not easy, but it's God. And you're
Mhm.
gonna hear me say that throughout my book. Some things is not easy, but you gotta believe it's God. So anytime it's God, you just gotta trust it. We have to learn how to trust him. My husband says all the time, which he has a clothing line, you have to trust God and not your feelings. Trust God and not your feelings. Sometimes you just gotta keep speaking that thing over and over. Trust
God,
God
not
and
your
not your
feelings.
feelings.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and when you love people, it's hard. So I know where you are. I know where you are. When you love people, it's just hard because you're like, but we had relationship. We had a good time. But the good times are gone.
I get it.
What did Kenny Rogers say? You gotta know when to hold them and know when to fold them
Hold
and
up.
know when to walk away and know when to run.
Yeah, that is good. Gosh, I do. I love that. No, thank you for that. This is one of the things
You're
that we talked
welcome.
about right from the beginning. Like people only see the positives and they don't see the day-to-day work
Yes.
that goes into it. I myself, right? I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna start this winery and it's gonna be great. And right
That's
in
right.
the middle of doing all of this, uh, my mother passed away. I had grief.
Oh, I'm so
My
sorry.
mother figure passed away. And so then where is God in all of this, right? Here I'm starting this business. My mom is the number one person in my life, right? And just gone. So how am I supposed to pick up? And so I did go through a period where I wanted to give up, but thankfully I had people around me that said, nope, you're going to keep going. And I kept going when it felt good. I kept going when it felt bad. I kept going with tears. I kept going with laughter, but I kept going. And because this is such an uncharted uh, industry for women and for African Americans, this is uncharted. So there was no consultant, there was no coach. And so I had to be that for myself. And that's part of the journey that we discussed. As you said, where do we want to go? Ultimately, we want to have an internship program where we bring in another woman each year and I pour into her to be a winemaker. I teach her everything I know about setting up because it's more than just drinking wine. And that's what I tell people. It's a science behind that. It's the etiology of a grape, right? It is now, and then we get to once the wine is in the bottle, right? It's dealing with a graphic design artist, right? It's dealing with the federal government to make sure that the label is appropriate. So there are a lot of moving pieces. There are a lot of things that I maneuvered to get here to our inaugural bottling, which was March 29th of last year. We won 2024 Winery of the Year in June,
Oh wow.
which, from what I heard, is unheard of for a new winery. And our wine has been very well received. We have people come up and they're like excited. We talked about this a little bit. It's a dry, our wines, our inaugural wines, the three that we have are dry wines. We have a rosé, we have a lovely Sauvignon Blanc, and then we have our matriarch, which is our reserve estate wine. And that bottle has a picture of my grandmother on the bottle from the 1920s. And that's why I named it Matriarch. She was a Leo.
Oh
Um,
wow.
She was bold, she was feisty, and that red wine kind of symbolizes all of that. And wine is such a intimate experience for a winemaker, right? There's a lot of heart and soul that goes into making a bottle of wine, how I blend, what do I want to feel, and wine tells a story. It tells a story. It can tell a story about what point I was at in my life during that time that I was fermenting or bottling or blending. And so we're looking forward to this year releasing our 2024 wines that went into tank in September of last year. So we're looking forward to releasing those wines, and the journey is different, right? So this year we're releasing a sparkling wine, right? Because I
Okay.
was trained in France and I'm a bubbles girl. I'm a sparkling wine. I am a traditional champagne noir. Um, that's my thing. And I'm really excited about this sparkling because sparkling and bubbles means joy for me, right? And starting this business last year felt so hard from 2023 dealing with grief to 2024. This has been a journey, but 2025 feels like joy for me. And I am embracing that. And by the way, that's on the back of every bottle, every label of our wine. It says that this wine is to invoke broad joy. All
Oh,
women
well.
are deserving of joy. And so that's on each one of our wine labels. So I'm so excited. And I kind of feel like, oh yes, I came up with that, but I did not. God, everything that you see, everything that I have, everything that I am, everything belongs to God.
Amen.
I'm nothing without him. These are the gifts and talents that he has placed on my life. And so I embrace that. But along with those gifts and talents, too, right, also come trials, right? And so there have been trials, right? I don't want anyone to think that this was an easy journey, but anything worth having is never going to be easy, no matter what realm you decide to go into. But there will be trials. But the true definition and character of any person is who you are in the middle of the trial and who you are when you come out of the trial. So
Mm-hmm.
that's the most profound thing that I feel. You know, I'm a mother, I'm a mom to this incredible now 8-year old son. And wow, motherhood is life changing, it is life altering. I don't care how many times you hear somebody tell you it's going to be different. It is different. I've always been a people's person. I've always loved. Um, but I've never loved anybody the way that I love that child.
Oh,
The way that I love him. He's
beautiful.
a rainbow baby. He is my son.
Yeah.
And every time I would doubt myself throughout this wine journey, um, I saw him because he's my why. And that's why our white wine is named Legacy, right? Because this is not about my journey. This is not about my path. What I'm doing now is about him. And it's about people that he'll surround himself with. So that's why it's the legacy thing here. And I tell people, I make a great living. I'm very comfortable where I am at in life. But sometimes God has to make you uncomfortable to serve his purpose because I was comfortable. I was sitting over here and I was comfortable where I was. But that's not where he wanted me to be. So he had to make me uncomfortable. He had to trouble the water so that I could stay on his assignment. And sometimes you need a little trouble because if you didn't have trouble, you would assume that you did all of this by yourself. And I never want to
Come
forget
on
that
here.
I did this by myself. I did none of this by myself. Everything is because of God. And when I look at my son, we talked about this, but I'm also the parent of a medically fragile child. Never heard those words before, right? Medically fragile in front of a child. What did that mean? And so self-discovery, right? What is a medically, right? How did that fit around my life, right? Having parenting a medically fragile child. And I tell you, it's one thing to be a mother, but you turn into a whole nother type of mother when you have a child who has a chronic medical condition that you have to manage. We do it very well. I don't do it by myself. His father is excellent, the other team player in this. But I think that's kind of what made me dig down because I can complain all day, but to see my child have pain and never complain, who am I to complain?
Whew.
It's just a whole nother, it's a whole nother level of love, right? And I share this when people come up for wine tastings. And I've had so many people say, I've learned more about wine from you standing in front of you than I never knew this much. My goal is not to get you to purchase a bottle of wine. You can purchase wine if you want or not. I'm not going to force it down your throat, but I'm going to educate you about these wines so that you can make an informed decision. Because at the end of the day, I'm a scientist. So I'm not going to make wine that's going to kill people. I'm not going to put a lot of sugar. I'm not going to put additives. I'm not going to put red dye in it, which was, by the way, the FDA banned it last week, which I'm so excited about. I'm not going to do all that. I make natural, organic, vegan wines because at the end of the day, when this is all said and done, I'll have to answer for whatever we did on this side of the earth, whatever I did. And I listen, there might be some other things I might have to answer for. I don't want to answer for that. I gave people all this sugar and wine, all these illnesses, right? Um, and that's the basis of Noir, right? We're family owned. We're a small boutique winery. And someone asked me, "Do you want to expand? Do you want to do?" No, I don't. I want to stay small. I want to stay boutique. I create my own wine. And that's a little different too, because someone will say, "Oh, well, I know such and such, they have a wine." Da, 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 da. There's a difference between a wine brand and a winery, right? A wine brand means that you can pull wine in from California, Washington State, Oregon, South America, and it comes already in a bottle, and you put a label on it. You put your label on it and say, "This is my wine." That's not what I do. And I think being a scientist, it wouldn't allow me to do that. So we do custom crush, which means that I grow my grapes. Right now, my grapes are grown on the Eastern Shore in Cambridge, Maryland. And it was very important for me to have my grapes down by a water source, right? Because grapes and soil, the terroir, was very important, right? I wanted to make sure that I was making a quality product. I didn't want to import bulk juice from anywhere, right? So I get great satisfaction in April going out to the vineyard and looking at my grapes, seeing how they're doing, how are they feeling, right? Because what people don't realize is that wine is a living organism. You could try my wine today, January 21st, and come back next January, 2026, and it would be completely different. So, like us, wine is always evolving.
Okay, so there's so much. My God. Congratulations on everything. Like there was some celebrations in there, there was
Yeah.
some heartbreak in there was some highs, some lows, there was a little bit of everything. I absolutely love how you just brought it all together. Um, so I wrote some notes. So your wine, Noir is the name of it, right? I'm pronouncing it right.
Noir, Noir Sunshine. Correct.
Noir Sunshine.
Mhm.
And I'm going to get that contact information so I can share that with everybody. But it's a natural, organic, vegan wine.
Correct.
Um, and you grow your own grapes and everything. Like
Yes.
that's
Grow
huge.
my own grapes.
I love it. I'm learning so much.
I'm excited. And that's what
Um,
it's about the journey.
yeah, yeah, this is so good. And then your son. So I had never heard medically fragile child before. I've
Mhm.
never heard that.
Yeah.
So would you can you share a little bit more about that?
Oh, sure. Medically fragile is, and it could be a medically fragile adult or a medically fragile child. It just
Okay.
means that there is an adult or child that has a chronic medical condition that
Okay.
needs overseen, right?
Okay.
So something a little bit more serious than a virus, right?
Mm,
Say like a common, say a stomach virus, right? A normal child will get a stomach virus. We give them Pedialyte, right? And say, okay. Whereas my son can get a virus and throw up once or twice, and we're in the ER for we're in the ER and then we're in the hospital for 2 days. Right.
mm, okay.
Those are, that's what I mean by medically fragile, because that, what people don't know is that COVID, and we're going to go back to this pandemic, has changed the way that we interact as people. And because I have a medically fragile child, I don't get to go places that I used to go. I don't get to hang around with people that I used to hang around with, right? I am a big entertainer, right? I have a big home. I love for everyone to come over. But I've had to scale that back because, again, my ultimate purpose is making sure that he gets everything that he needs and also to keep him safe and protected. um, he is a delightful 8-year old. He, like I said, he is my heart. But I do think that there needs to be more awareness brought around to children that are medically fragile, children that face chronic health conditions, right? I don't
Mhm.
think we talk about that enough, right? We just assume everybody's child is not healthy. And some people's children routinely see a doctor 3, 4 times a month, whereas a normal child only sees a doctor if you get a cold or one time a year for a well-being checkup. I think Nasser, I think God makes no mistakes. So I think that my son, who is Nasser, I think that God intended for that angel, for this angel to be my child, right? Who better
Yeah.
than a child? If you're going to send a child that has medical conditions, send it to a child whose mother is a health scientist, right? And so I've been able to help navigate that realm. And so that's why it's very important for me through this wine journey to continuously bring awareness to the fact of children with chronic health conditions. Because
My
again,
goodness. And you balance all of that.
myself, I don't do it by myself. I have a team. I have very good family support, and I
That's
do
good.
acknowledge that. I have great family support that have surrounded me, that have that allow me to be me and still function as a mother and
Oh, that's so
function,
good.
you know, as a scientist and still function as Charmaine, the wine fairy. So, and that's very important for me. And I do want to say that because you can't do everything by yourself. You can't be everything to everybody else and nothing to yourself, right? And people say, oh, you can have it all. You cannot have it all. You cannot. And that's the reality of it. And let's tie it back to social media. We have to stop believing people that get on these gurus and sites and you can have it all, or on TikTok, you can be it all. You cannot. You cannot be it all. You cannot have it all. There's some aspect of your life that's going to have 80, and there's some aspect of your life that's going to have 20, or vice versa. It's all about finding that balance, right?
Yeah.
Some days I'm Charmaine the winemaker, 90% of the day, right? And other days I'm 100% Nasir's mom, right? I try to make sure that I'm always present. I bring Nasser to work with me, or like he rides his bike through the wine facility where our tanks are, right? Because I wanted to bring him because I want people to see this is about him.
Yeah.
This is about him. And this is about leaving him a legacy. And this is about helping other children who are medically fragile. This is about helping other children who are differently able, right? This is what this all ties into. And at the end of the day, like you said, I'm not going to be here forever, but this legacy will live on. Well done, my good and faithful servant. That's all I want to hear.
I love it. I love it. So good. So good. This was amazing. This was absolutely amazing. Thank you so much. Um, whew, we went over a lot. We went over a lot. So, is there anything final that you want to share that we didn't cover before we close out? I think I've gotten all of my questions answered. I even got a lot more than what I expected. So,
Good.
do you have any more questions for me, or do you have anything else that you want to share?
I think just in closing, just in general, I just really want to share that whomever you may encounter throughout your day's journey, always be a little considerate because people are facing and fighting battles that we have no knowledge of. And that's it. And I also want to share about really quick Noir Sunshine because a lot of people say, how'd you come up with Noir Sunshine? Because noir is black, sunshine is bright. And I wanted to do the oxymoron and the contrast between the fact that being dark, being black, could exist and it could be joy and it could be bountiful. And so that's why I brought Noir Sunshine. And it was not ultimately just my own creation. I love art. So I'm a big Basquiat uh, collector. And so we went to a museum that had some Basquiat information. And one of the exhibits said Negro, Negro, sunshine. And I thought, wow, this is kind of odd as an exhibit. Um, but the more that throughout that day, it sat with me. And I was like, you know what? This is the name of my winery. And I had a friend say, oh no, because black people gonna say Negro. They ain't gonna say Negro. And, and I said, you're probably right. Let's be clear. And I said, what about Noir Sunshine? And being a researcher by trade, I began to look into what Negro Sunshine. I began to look into the artist, and I began to find out it was a gentleman in New York that came up with the Negro Sunshine. I was like, "Hmm, that's kind of odd." But the biggest blessing about all of this was he was inspired by a book that was written in 1920 by a woman who was a feminist during that time, and Negro Sunshine was the third chapter of her book. The book had three chapters about different women. Negro Sunshine was the third chapter of her book, and it was about Black women. And there was a light skinned friend, and she was identified in the book as a mulatto. And there was another woman who was brown and gorgeous. And the mulatto woman would always say, I wish I had the Negro sunshine that this darker African American woman had. And I was like, wow. So then I began to think about the author. I researched her and found out she was a feminist. She never married. She moved from Delaware to Paris. Her father was in finance. Her father made it big. They left the States and went over to France. But her life's long journey was helping women. And I thought, well, if this was 1922 and we're dealing with the same issues in 2021 as women, and the icing on the cake was this woman was originally from Baltimore. So
Oh,
again,
wow.
nothing just happens. Nothing.
Nothing just happens. That's
No,
good.
that's why I tell people it is, there's a meaning. Everything has a meaning, right? To this. And when you think about it, you talked about it. When we talked about who goes, who stays with you, who along this journey, um, and you said you have to know that whatever comes or goes, God allowed it. So God allowed this, and God has allowed respite in the middle of the storms of starting this water. And so
So
that
good.
is Noir Sunshine. That's
Yeah. Yeah. It's all God.
it is.
It's all God.
I'm so
I love it.
excited. Thank you so much for allowing me to share and talk about my journey. And
Yes.
it's just been beautiful.
This is beautiful. This is. Thank you so much for being willing to share. I'm sure there's someone out here who is going to be just as blessed as I am. I learned so much, and there's a lot, for others to learn throughout this entire conversation. Um, just you sharing your journey with the winery and being a scientist and a mother and balancing it all and maintaining even through grief. You shared a lot,
To God
um,
be the
and I
glory.
thank
It's
you.
been a journey, and that grief thing is still, and I'm sure there are other women out there, or women that are listening that have lost a parent, right? Or have lost a child or lost a spouse. And grief is very real. So I guess again, if we would end with anything, it would be don't afraid to seek out help if you need it. Don't be afraid. Grief is not easy. Grief has
Yeah,
no expiration date. And if you don't make room for it, it will consume you.
yeah,
So I
yeah.
guess that's what we can, end on. If there's any women listening, don't do not be afraid to be meant to do not be afraid to receive mental health services.
So good. Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. We're going to share your information with our audience. And um, if you can, right before you leave, if you can just share the name of the winery and how to reach you on whether you have a website or social media
Sure.
or
So
whatever,
the
if you could share
winery
those.
is Noir, Noir, Sunshine Winery. Two facilities. Our actual winery is in Montgomery County. We have a tasting room in Baltimore, Maryland. You can find us on the web at www.noir, Noir, sunshine, sunshine, wine, wine.com. We're on Instagram at Noir Sunshine Wines. I am also on Instagram as the Baltimore Wine Fairy. You get a glimpse of my journey as a sommelier. I love wine. I'm always learning. I don't just drink my wine. It's too much of it out here. It's too much of a journey. So that's where you can find us. Also, if you are looking to join a wine club, if you're looking to just learn a little bit more or just be around women and relational, right? Click on the link and join our wine club. We would love to have you. And cheers.
Cheers. So good. So good. So good. Thank you for listening to Able Conversations More Than Moms podcast with special guest Sharmaine Taylor, the scientist, the winemaker, and the advocate. We are the Able Center, a nonprofit resource and support center for the everyday working woman. We are here to provide support for the woman who is on a journey of becoming a better mother, daughter, sister, wife, neighbor, and friend. You may find out more information about us on our website at able-center.org.